Ladies and gentlemen, sure, high-end performance parts are extremely exciting to talk about, and we all want to see what, let's say, the RTX 4090 Ti is capable of, but budget PC gaming has really taken a significant hit over the past few years, with lack of products like the RX 480, remember that? But there's some great news on the horizon, and that is products like AMD's Phoenix APUs, as well as mid-range Nvidia cards, are going to start filtering onto store shelves, and they look pretty promising. So we're going to be tackling all of that along with a few other things in this video. Let's start things out, shall we? Right after this message from the video's sponsor.
If you're running a copy of Windows 10 which isn't activated, of course, not only do you have to worry about the missing customization options, but there's also that annoying Windows desktop watermark reminding you to activate. Today's video is sponsored by WhoKeys.com, and they have an excellent price on Windows 10 Professional as well as Home keys. Yeah, and they also of course sell games. I've bought a few Windows 10 keys with my own personal account to test everything was legit and worked in preparation for this sponsored video. You can pick up one of their keys for 25% off using the coupon code RGT in the checkout. There's links to their website in the video description. Also, if you're building a few systems, there's bundles available too. Again, you can check out WhoKeys.com and use the coupon code RGT for 25% off the listed Windows 10 key prices.
So without any further ado, let's have a quick look at some benchmarks for AMD's Phoenix. We'll get into what Phoenix is if you missed it after the benchmarks, but basically speaking, we have a 7940HS here, which is essentially combined with a Radeon 780. Now this again is Phoenix, and here we have a product which is running at 2.8 GHz with a TDP of 54 watts and 25 watts respectively. Credit to Billy for leaking this. Now, I won't give the scores exactly, I'm going to just round them up and down for everyone's sanity, but at 25 watts it's running at 2500 points in 3D Mark Time Spy, and 2800 points at the 54 watt mark. Now, to put this into some level of context, this easily outperforms the previous generation parts, but, just as importantly, isn't too far behind, let's say, Nvidia's GTX 1650 Ti and RTX 2050. Now, it's worth noting that this is not final performance. I think there is still something left to squeeze out, and in fact these actually boost up to 3 GHz, it seems, from the leaks that we have here. But at the moment it only seems to be reaching 2.8 GHz, so I think that there's probably a few more points to get to kind of squeeze out of these products. And again, I think that this is going to mean that budget gamers who are looking for laptop options are going to really be in for a treat. For what it's worth, I'm hearing that Intel's future iGPU products are going to also be really great as well, so this is only ever positive news. And now let's skip to Nvidia, specifically AD106. These will be found in GeForce products such as the RTX 4060 and probably even the RTX 4060 Ti. There have been a bunch of benchmarks that have been run for, let's say, Time Spy, 3D Mark, and so on and so on. And these products are looking pretty impressive. They are up in performance actually to the RTX 3070 Ti, and they are considerably more energy efficient. I want to give credit to Chip Health Forums for actually leaking these initially, and also Harikaze on Twitter for compiling some of the results. I also want to give credit to ARC on Twitter as well, because that's where I initially saw these leaks. So we're looking at about 25% lower power draw, and in some applications, I want to stress some applications, it is actually about the same amount of performance as an RTX 3070 Ti. Now again, these performance numbers could change a little bit before launch, and I'm not going to read out all of the results here because you can see them on screen yourself, but if we were to compare, let's say, the G8 versus the GA104, we're looking at Speedway being around 6% slower, Port Royal being around 2% faster. Applications, of course, which really leverage ray tracing, such as DXR, obviously we're looking at a significant speed up, and in some applications which really push memory read, for example, of ADA64, there is a significant deficit in performance, like 50%. So these GPUs are going to be really interesting, I think, when they finally launch. I've heard that they are extremely energy efficient for quite some time. It is, of course, going to all be down to pricing for these products, but I think Nvidia will be quite aggressive with the RTX 40 series for the mid-range. But there is actually some further great news for budget gamers, and that may be Intel. Now, you may see back here there is an A750. Wow, this is like the most inelegant showing of a product, I think, on YouTube. I think I should get a medal. But yeah, you can see the A750 box here. Now, for those who don't know, ARC launched in a semi-rough state, and I've actually had this product sitting, well, with me for a while now. Actually, it's way before Christmas I received it, but I just haven't had time to mess around with it, just because of the move and various other bits and pieces. But I'm actually really happy I got sent the A750, because there have been some really interesting updates from Intel recently. One of those is the A750 itself has received a nice price cut, and this is official. In my personal opinion, this is going to put a crap ton of pressure on Nvidia's lower-end RTX 30 series. Further to this, there are some driver updates. Now, DX12 for ARC has been reasonable. There are certainly some games which are not exactly brilliant. I haven't tested this yet, but I think Dead Space is kind of weird when it comes to particle effects. I think it was Capframe X that mentioned that on Twitter. I don't want to misquote though, so I could be wrong on that. So if it works fine, don't shoot me. I think that's from memory, so if I'm wrong, yeah, don't yell at me. However, on average, let's say Shadow of the Tomb Raider and many other games run pretty well, and there is definitely a lot of positive aspects to the architecture. It just is obvious that they haven't ironed out all of the bugs yet. And one of the really big problems with ARC, of course, has been legacy APIs. So, for example, DirectX 9 games. Well, there have been a massive number of updates recently from Intel's driver team. And one of those, I mean, you can see the results yourself. I don't really need to say much on screen. You can see that the performance results here are really impressive. Would I recommend ARC right now? I'll be doing some testing to really see what I think in terms of like a usability standpoint. I do think, however, that we do need the extra competition. I went from pessimistic for a while about Intel's graphics solutions to actually getting kind of hopeful again. I do think that Battlemage is going to be actually pretty interesting. From what I understand, it's going to launch early-ish next year and roughly on performance levels of the RTX 4080-ish. Obviously, performance targets can either be exceeded or missed or on target, but I do think Intel are going to do fairly well in graphics if they can continue. The only problem is, at the moment, Intel have faced a lot of financial pressure, so hopefully that doesn't impact things. I think, if anything, it might light a fire under their ass, because obviously there is a lot of money to be made in graphics. The only thing is, it is extremely competitive. Like, I mean, Nvidia, love them or hate them, they have like they basically have a really good grasp on the PC gaming market. And I think for many people, when it comes to buying a graphics card, it's like, it's just synonymous with GeForce. Like with CPUs, you may say, oh, I want to buy AMD or I want to buy Intel. But for a lot of folks who don't really know PC gaming so well, it's a GeForce. Let me know if you feel differently in the comments. I'm genuinely curious about this, but this is just something that I've personally noticed with a lot of my friends who are not like super into the technology. Let me know if you've experienced anything different. So I think Nvidia's mindshare is going to be definitely something that is going to be difficult for Intel to crack. But I really do want the competition. And obviously AMD have done pretty well. The RX 6000 series, like cards like the 6800 series, has done really well in my opinion. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Intel in the long run. But this is some really good news, I think, for budget gamers, especially with ARC. At the end of the day, PC gaming, you know, the higher end cards are absolutely brilliant at the moment, like the RTX 4090. But let's face it, not everyone has like 2,000 or so bucks to throw down. It is a significant amount of money. And really and truly, you can have a CPU for multiple like product builds. Like, for example, you can still make a good argument like an 8700K, for sake of discussion, is more than ample for a lot of games. But obviously the GPU is what ages a lot faster. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the market, because I think the RTX 50 series in particular is going to be absolutely just ridiculously powerful. With all of that said, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you did, it's YouTube. You know what to do. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.